And then welcome. Yes, thanks everybody for being, concerned about, your local environment enough to come here and do something. My name is Kate Rose. It's a first name and a last name. A lot of people think it's like Mary Kate. I am the Florida Sea Grant agent for the county. And I have a little intro on what Florida Sea Grant is, because a lot of people think I'm saying secret agent. And if that was the case, I would be a really terrible one going around telling everybody all the time. So Florida Sea Grant is a university-based program that supports research and education and extension to conserve coastal resources and enhance the economic opportunities for the people of Florida. And that's what they make us put on the website. Basically, what happened is in 1862, Abraham Lincoln figured out that there was all of this agricultural research going on at the university level that wasn't actually making its way down to the farmers who could use it. So he established the land grant university system, which was built on the 3 pillars that are diagrammed up on the board. There's teaching and research, which people tend to associate with universities. And then there is extension, which is what we're doing here. It's basically a fancy word for outreach and community engagement. And the land grant university in the state of Florida is the University of Florida. And a lot of the extension work happens under the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences. So you guys might see that IFAS logo on the tablecloth in the back on my shirt. And in 1966, somebody said, we have all this cool system for all of our land-based resources. Why don't we have it for our aquatic resources? Because as we all know, the ocean did not exist until 1966. So, but there are a bunch of people in my office that also do a lot of stuff pertaining to horticulture and agriculture as well. So you guys are always welcome. We're meant to be a community resource. Please feel free to reach out. And so there is a Florida Sea Grant, or not a Florida Sea Grant program. There is a Sea Grant program in 35 states and 2 territories of the United States, every state with coastline, the Great Lakes, Guam, and Puerto Rico. So thank you for coming and participating in Florida's. And now I'll let my partner, Jessica, this event would not be possible without the support of the Coastal and Heartland National Estuary Partnership, CHNEP. I think I got that right. So I'll invite her up to talk about herself and CHNEP.
So good afternoon, everyone. I am Jessica Scott Dunda. I'm so glad to see you. This is a great turnout. And for you to participate in this volunteer citizen scientist opportunity means a lot to us. We couldn't do what we do without your help, so it's just crucial. So thank you for taking the time and using your talents, and we just really appreciate you. So really quick, I am a 5th generation Floridian from Sarasota. Pretty invested in the environment. Really into it. We are with the Coastal and Heartland National Estuary Partnership. I'm going to go through a couple slides about who we are. And if you need me, you can always reach out.
If you just hit the arrow or click.
Okay, cool. So we are formed in 1995, and we are one of only 28 congressionally designated estuaries of national significance in the United States. Our office is actually currently at City Hall in Punta Gorda at 326 West Marion Avenue. We're in the old historic building right now. We receive special funding and support from the United States Environmental Protection Agency under the Clean Water Act. And we use that to protect and restore water resources in our area, which is 10 counties. So where do we work? We actually have 5,416 square miles of land that we work with. Our estuaries include Lemon Bay, Donna and Roberts Bay, Charlotte Harbor, Pine Island Sound, the Caloosahatchee, San Carlos Bay, and Estero Bay. Our rivers include the Mayaca, the Peace, the Caloosahatchee, and Estero. So inland and coastal communities are included. And we do have the 10 counties and 25 cities. So basically we start down in like Lee County, and we go up through Hardy, Hendry, all the way up to Polk, over to the side to Charlotte, Sarasota, Manatee, all the way up there. So, and again, we depend on citizen scientists and volunteers. It has a grassroots and citizen supported base. We're designed to be community driven. I'm the public outreach specialist, so we do a lot of environmental education. I was actually a teacher for 16 years, so this was a natural progression. But as such, the CHNEP, we have a citizens advisory board. So I always like to throw that out. We actually have 4 boards that we work with. So we have technical, which are like scientists like Kate. We have a policy. So we deal with all the commissioners and mayors and things like that on working together in partnerships, the citizens, and then management. So we work with a lot of partners there. But we do work with a large team of volunteers who directly assist the implementation of the various educational, research, and restoration projects and initiatives that we undertake. All right, so power of partnership. We are public-private. We're consensus-based, non-regulatory. We are science-based, and we're citizen-supported. So the CHNEP, as we're called, because of private contributions, volunteers, and donated in-kind services has been able to provide more than $19 of restoration for every dollar it receives of federal governmental funding. We do a lot of restoration projects. And so this is what we do. We implement the comprehensive conservation management plan. We call it the CCMP. And all of this is on our website, chnep.org. So this is our overview here. We have lots of downloadable information, PDFs. All of these documents are online. All of our educational resources are online. Anything about our committees are online. So it's a great resource. Our water atlas links are on there. So water atlas is actually one of the products that we work on with USF and UF. So you can check out water quality in your areas and things like that. But it is about water quality improvement, the hydrological restoration, fish, wildlife, and habitat protection, and public engagement. Okay, so that is mine. And if you need us, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, all of that. Check out our website. And if you need my information, you can get that to me.
Alrighty, so let's get down to brass tacks. I just wanted to give you guys a brief overview, so I'm not blindsiding you with what today's training is going to look like. So it's all going to come in. So we talked a little bit about who we are. I'm going to give you just a little more, keep you in front of the PowerPoint for just a touch longer, talking a little bit about why this program was implemented, some of the environmental issues surrounding it. And then we'll go over, what we would hope that you guys would be able to commit to as volunteers. And then we'll get everybody up and moving. We'll get those kits in the background. Everybody will get together with their teams, grab a kit. We will I'll walk through the kit with you. You guys have a really in-depth instruction sheet in that packet that we gave you, but I'll show you what's what so that it's not complete gibberish when you are out on the water. And then once you guys have an idea as to what's going on and what's going to be required of you, we are going to engage in a moderated discussion about picking sites. I'll send a final email out and finalize that and make sure we can maximize everybody's ability to participate. We're all going to do it in 2 hours. Sound good? So Eyes on Seagrass was generated out of a growing concern of macroalgal abundances in many estuaries along the east coast of Florida. There's a lot of words I just threw at you. Macroalgae is seaweed. It's the nasty stuff that touches your feet that you don't really like to touch. It's related to microalgae, which some of you guys know is what causes harmful algae blooms. On a cellular level, they are pretty similar, but structurally they're different. So there are some different concerns with each. Typically, macroalgae has this seasonal pattern where it kind of grows in the spring when stuff starts to warm up. And by the time it gets really, really hot in the summer, it's going to die off. So we're kind of striking into the middle there. Hopefully you guys won't have a whole lot and it'll just be a whole bunch of beautiful seagrass. But it's still concerning to people because it's sort of moving outside of those seasonal patterns. It's seaweed, so it's touching people's feet. And whereas with microalgae and harmful algae blooms, you worry about, things like it getting in your seafood, it causing health issues for you. The issues associated with macroalgae are more, ecology related. So is it potentially shading out the seagrass and covering it, making it really hard for it to survive? Is it degrading and then causing a bunch of nutrients to be put into the system, which, you guys have all been here for at least 3 or 4 years. I don't have to explain to you that nutrients are something that is troubling to us in our estuaries at the moment. And this is just an example of what, that macroalgae looks like. It is a filamentous green macroalgae, very aptly named, of a bloom that was recorded along the west wall in 2012. So just sort of to demonstrate, what's going on, that it's concerned, a growing concern in this area. And sorry, I don't have my notes on here. But anyways, we're here to talk about seagrass, right? Eyes on seagrass and macroalgae. They are a relationship, they're intertwined, and they're important to us, and they have their roles, and it's important to understand what is going on, particularly because out of all of those issues I just mentioned with macroalgae, there's not a really comprehensive macroalgae study plan in place to gauge what is going on. So you guys will be participating in that. As far as the monitoring that is occurring, it tends to be a little bit focused on seagrass. So as I mentioned, they go hand in hand. The seagrasses in the area all over the state are mapped by SWIFMUD, the Southwest Florida Water Management District, if anybody can keep that straight. Every 2 to 3 years, they do these aerial surveys all over the state. The local FDEP and the Charlotte Harbor Aquatic Reserve, that's the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. I know this, I'm hitting you guys with some alphabet soup here. But they have been doing a monitoring very similar to what you guys are going to do every fall since 1998. And then there is Eyes on Seagrass. This is actually a really phenomenal source of data for, the people that make the decisions about these environments. Our methods are really similar to DEP, like I mentioned, which is really cool because our data sets can be meshed together and it creates a larger data set. And it's not duplicative. So, they go out every fall, and FDEP, they can recruit maybe 10, some local agency folks to help them. But because of, all the people in this room and the dedication, we can cover a much larger area and we can cover it more frequently. So you guys are here for the summer sampling. We actually sample twice each year. There was a spring sampling in April, and that's typically the schedule that it works on. So if you think about it, we're getting a snapshot of how the seagrass and the macroalgae is doing in the spring, winter, and the fall with all of our combined data sets. So it really, starts to tell a story. And that's the bottom line, is that, by participating in this program, you're going to be contributing to a body of data that, is going to end up on a commissioner's desk and then potentially inform their decision. Oh, and that's I wish that had come up earlier, but that's the sites of where FDEP samples each fall in the harbor. You guys might have noticed that we are confined to Charlotte County. That's because I am confined to Charlotte County. But it is, yeah, exactly. There's no shortage of coastline to cover for sure. So why are we monitoring it? Clearly, seagrass is important to us, but why is that the case? So I'm just going to go around this circle here, talk a little bit in depth. So I'll start at the top and I'll move clockwise. First of all, seagrass actually helps to mitigate climate change. It's a plant, very much similar to the plants that you guys know and love. And does anybody remember like first grade, maybe not first grade, I don't know, middle school biology? Plants take in what and spit out a what? Take in carbon dioxide and spit out oxygen, right? So they're taking in those greenhouse gases. They're huge carbon sinks, which is, the thing that is warming the planet. They also prevent erosion. You can see here that they have this, you guys see that mouse on that screen? Perfect. So, the sediment, this is an example of seagrass when it's not in the natural environment, but in the natural environment, there would be a layer of sediment that would start right about here. So that whole root system really stabilizes the sediment. And it helps with water clarity. Sorry, jumping across the circle, because it stabilizes that sediment, keeps it from going up, keeps it from moving out from between its roots. It provides habitat, particularly to a lot of small critters and young critters, because even though it just looks like a field of grass to us, if you're these big, it's like a forest, it's like hiding in a forest. There's plenty of nooks and crannies to hide from predators. There's plenty of food opportunities. And for that reason, it supports biodiversity. So the statistic I remember offhand is that 70% of all fish species in Florida are dependent on seagrass at some point in their lives. And that's the thing that, people want to come see in Florida. And as a result, it generates a lot of tourism and fishing that supports the economy. But I don't know if you guys saw this article, we're facing some trouble here. This was an article in the Charlotte Sun that was published in 2021. There was a huge loss of seagrass all over the harbor. It was particularly a challenge on the east wall. So, this monitoring and having a really thorough understanding of what's going on in the environment is becoming all the more important. So what's threatening it? I'm just going to click through this because I need the picture to go up. So first of all, there's physical damage to seagrass. We had a lot of kayakers here. Any boaters? Right. So you guys know, the propellers, those on those things sprint pretty fast. And when you don't know what you're doing, particularly, in our very shallow, difficult to navigate area, those propellers can cut up the seagrass. And then on top of that, there's physical dredging, so making channels. I think there's been a lot of strides in terms of, getting all the right permitting and protecting that habitat. But, at one point, just physically removing it was a concern. The second thing, and the thing you guys are probably, hearing about that's kind of in your periphery more, is this shading as a result of nutrient input. So like I mentioned, seagrass is a plant similar to the plants that you guys know. It has roots, and that's how it gets its nutrients. It's just has a couple little adaptations so that it doesn't drown in the water. So the nutrients go up through the roots. Algae, on the other hand, I mentioned it's a little bit different on a cellular level, and it has some adaptations that basically allow it to diffuse nutrients through its skin. So you think about the difference in surface area, right? You have those like few tangy little roots that are in the ground absorbing nutrients versus like your whole being, it just consuming nutrients. And as a result, algae is a lot more efficient at taking nutrients out of the water. And because our system is pretty nutrient enriched these days, it's just outcompeting it. It's just outcompeting that seagrass, and it creates this physical shading where, what is the other thing that a plant needs? Sunlight, exactly. So when the algae grows over that, it can't quite get to that sunlight.
So the algae is killing off.
It's, yeah. Competing with, yes, it's not balanced. And this graphic from a scientifically reviewed paper, I feel like illustrates the system pretty well. So, there's this nice, there are defined, we're trying to put nature into boxes. So, there's kind of these different stages. There is a system in which you are completely nutrient limited. And that's not great for seagrass either, right? We need some nutrients. Like, nutrients aren't the bad guy. It's just a matter of how it's moving around in the system. So you do need some amount of nutrients to support seagrass health as you move over to the right. However, as you start to increase your nutrient load, moving to the right, you get, can anybody see these kind of like little fuzzy bits on the seagrass? You start to get little itty bitty tufts of algae and other stuff growing on it. And, that starts to block out the sunlight. So you'll see seagrass will start to look really fuzzy in that system. But then you add more nutrients, and I'm getting into what we're talking about, which is that you're getting this seaweed that's physically shading the seagrass. And then if you want to go even a step further than that, the system transitions from macroalgae, being big algae, stuff that you can hold in your hand, to microalgae, that stuff that creates harmful algae blooms. This is kind of around, and everybody's been hearing about Indian River Lagoon, the fact that they're feeding manatees over there because they,
Oh yeah, giving them the romaine lettuce.
Yeah.
And stuff, yeah.
So in Indian River Lagoon, they've really transitioned, they're hanging out around here. There's a lot of good efforts to get it back on track, but basically they have so much, microalgae in the water column, it's killing all the seagrass to the point where they actually have to feed the manatees to keep them alive. But what a fun job.
Yeah, I know.
I wish it wasn't necessary, but. So what are we going to ask of you guys to sort of, help us keep track of what is going on here? First of all, we put it in the intro. We'll hope that you'll form teams of 3. Once we go through, how to utilize the equipment, I think that will become fairly obvious as to why 3 is a good number. It's also a good safety procedure. We'll ask that you guys navigate yourselves to your selected sites and provide your own snorkel gear or whatever equipment you need to get yourself in the water and look at the seagrass. I recommend a weight belt. Yeah, it'll help, because especially if you want to sometimes you got to get your face down. Your face down in the water to look. So we're going to give you guys 2 weeks starting next Monday, July 11th to the 25th. Go visit your site whenever you can. You only have to visit your assigned sites once. It's not like you're doing any sort of continuous monitoring. And by the way, this is just a guideline as well. If you need to go on the 26th or the 10th, just work with Jessica and I. It helps to put some boundaries on it, because if we have a sample in August, there's not a lot of perspective, for that sample. When you are done sampling and you've gone out and you've had an excellent day of being a citizen scientist, we are going to ask that you actually return the stuff to us same day if possible. So that is really important, not necessarily for the equipment, but we're going to ask you guys to collect some algae samples. We send it off to a lab and they can ID what kind of algae it is, which will give us some information as to what is going on in our system. And it's really best if we can process that day of. So something to factor into your day. Yeah.
If we're doing like the data collection like Saturday or Sunday, are you guys going to be accessible?
Yeah. Yep, we will. My cell phone is on. I will be. Jessica will not.
I am accessible like Monday through Friday, so I'll be downtown hall. So you can drop off from 8 to 5. I'm there, in the freezer, but yeah.
I will be. I'm about to live, breathe, and eat seagrass for the next couple weeks. So my personal, I will be at my office from 8 to 5. But if you need to connect with me outside of hours, my cell phone, my email, just let me know. I need a heads up. Otherwise, you guys are going to come to my office and I'm not going to be there. Samples will be received same day. I mentioned that. And then we're hoping that you'll take the, sort of become stewards of this environment that you guys are clearly, very passionate about protecting in the first place, and talk to others about this program and, your concerns in the environment.